Welcome along to The Savage Filmmaker. My name is Guy Pigden, and today is a very special episode because we are doing the Glow Up edition, where we take this studio from this to this. It's still the same studio. Nothing happened. Let me try again. To this. Welcome to the new studio. I've moved houses, we've jumped forward in time. My hand is basically like an infinity gauntlet that can do that sort of thing. So I hope you'll agree that this is a significant improvement, and in this episode, I'm going to give you the studio tour, how I built out this set, all the equipment I'm currently using to create this particular look, and some tips and tricks on how you can improve your studio space. Links to as much of this equipment as possible will be in the description. I've never been particularly happy with my old studio space, which was essentially a small room that had to house both my office and my camera equipment, and I could just never quite get a studio look I was happy with. It always felt, regardless of what lens I used, just a little too claustrophobic.
I've got to get my memory card in the C200. There's no way for me to get around here anymore, so I've got to go under the desk. Ow. This smacked me in the head as I came through. It was cool.
I've just moved to a new house and had the opportunity to create a new studio space. So let's start off with my lighting and camera equipment. I'm going to show you a few different angles to give you a wider view of my current setup and also what I see when I'm looking at my camera, so you can really see the entire studio space. The camera I'm using in the studio is the Blackmagic Pocket 4K cinema camera. That's right, I'm not currently using my beloved Pocket 6K Pro, mainly because I like to have a camera I can leave permanently set up in this space. This saves me a lot of time when I want to record my pieces to camera. The 6K Pro is constantly in use for freelance jobs and my own filming projects, so rather than having to pack it all up and put it back, I recently purchased a Blackmagic Pocket 4K as my B cam and studio cam. This also allows me to use the 6K Pro as a second angle, or to get product shots. On the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K, I am using the Viltrox EF-M2 Mark II, which is a micro four third to Canon EF adapter and speed booster, which allows you to put EF lenses onto the BMP-CC 4K. There have been some known issues with this Viltrox speed boosters being incompatible with some EF lenses, especially after Blackmagic's most recent camera update. If you want the most reliable solution, the Metabone speed booster is a rock solid option that is definitely made to a higher quality pro standard. However, it is also 4 to 5 times the price of the Viltrox, and in my opinion, not 4 to 5 times better. I've owned both now and feel that the Viltrox's value for money is probably worth putting up with its imperfections. On the front of the Viltrox, I'm using the Sigma Art 18 to 35mm lens, which is the perfect lens for the studio because it can give me a nice wide field of view while maintaining a shallow depth of field. I currently have my aperture set to around 2.8 and I've set the focal length to around 24mm. On the front of my lens, you can see my teleprompter, which is the DesView T2 teleprompter. If you're prone to long-winded monologues like myself, a teleprompter can really cut down on both your filming time and your editing time. You make less mistakes working through your script, and you don't have to spend additional time trying to remember that script. I really like this teleprompter, and it's one of my best recent purchases for a number of reasons. First, it's cheap, which is great. Secondly, I can use it with either a tablet or a smartphone. For me, I use it with my iPhone. I just write my script on my computer and then copy and paste my script into the DesView's free downloadable app on the phone. I place my phone in the holder and start talking. It's as simple as that. The teleprompter also comes with a remote, so you can start, stop, rewind, or fast forward your script in real time without getting up to fiddle with your phone, which is another huge time saver. It's also very small and simply slots right on the end of your camera lens. You don't need a second stand or rail system in front of your camera. Just attach it to your lens and you're ready to go. fast, easy, convenient. It's the perfect solution for talking head pieces to camera in studio or out in the field. The only negative of using the teleprompter is because it has to be small enough to fit on your lens, the size of your text is limited, so you can't use it if your camera is placed too far away from you. However, overall, I've found this to be an excellent solution and actually far better than many teleprompters double the price and double the size. To the left of my camera, you can see my monitor. This is a Philips Brilliance USB-C QHD 25-inch monitor, which I use to monitor my frame and levels. Using a computer monitor as a camera monitor is actually a bit of a game changer for me. I always struggled with using my Atomos 5-inch monitor in a studio environment, and even my Atomos Flame 7-inch monitor also feels slightly too small for really judging focus. But buying a camera monitor that is actually designed for cameras becomes insanely expensive once you go beyond 7 inches. That's when I realized I could just use a computer monitor, which gives me the proper screen real estate I need to be able to accurately judge my image at a fraction of the price. Just be aware, not all computer monitors, even with HDMI connections, can display the signal from your camera, so you need to do your own research to find a monitor that will be compatible with your camera signal. I'm also using the Sound Devices mobile MixPre 3 sound mixer, which I have recording and sending a stereo out signal to my 3.5mm jack on my Pocket 4K. Whether you record sound separately and sync it in post, or use the stereo out signal from the MixPre 3, both will provide better sound than running audio directly from your microphone into your Blackmagic preamps. However, I would say the difference is not that noticeable, so you only need to try this option if you're a real stickler for sound. Continuing on with audio, just above me is my microphone, which is the Octava MK01201 condenser microphone. I've been so impressed with this mic that I use it to record all of my YouTube videos and many of my recent short films and skits. It's also my go-to mic for interviews when doing corporate filming. It's small, light, affordable, well made, and I would put it on par with some of my much more expensive Sennheiser microphones. And it's excellent for most studios or interior shoots. It also pairs well with my Blackmagic camera. Now, to support the microphone, you can see I've got this interesting setup here. This is basically a Wally computer mount with two VESA arms attached to it. And attached to one of those arms is another cheap microphone holder, which I'm using to boom my microphone over my head, while the second one is used just to hold up a reflector for some light bounce. Now, I got this idea, like everyone on YouTube, from Caleb Pike, the legendary DSLR video shooter, who has made some epic home builds involving attaching entire studios to his desk with these arms. What I liked about this idea is that it means I don't have a large boom arm coming in from above the camera to place my shotgun microphone. It's all contained on the desk. Now let's talk about lighting. Another issue I had with my previous studio, which I was never happy with. Having just a little more space in my studio has made all the difference. Firstly, I have blockout blinds on both of the windows, which means I can film day or night and keep my lighting completely consistent. My key light to the right of me is the Aperture 300D, and I've turned it up all the way to 80%. I have it in the Aperture Light Dome softbox to provide that soft, pleasing light on my face. Using a 300D is probably overkill, and I would recommend one of my other favorite lights to use as your key light, which is a lot cheaper. The Godox UL150. While not quite as powerful as the Aperture 300D, I like the Godox more because it's completely silent, which means it's great for interviews and keeping noise in your studio to a minimum. I have this on a rolling C-stand, which is great as it provides me the ability to move my light around and make adjustments to my setup very quickly. This light is pretty much doing all the work on me, but as I mentioned, I have a reflector on my left side, which is just bouncing light from the aperture back to this side, and this is acting as my fill light. Just behind me, I have my backlight or hair light, which I've also mentioned in a previous video. It's the Falcon Eyes RX12T. This light is also helping light up my background. The light itself is hung on a small hook drilled into the roof. I have hooks in two positions where the light can perform different setups. This is a real space saver as it means I don't need another C-stand and boom arm setup. I just move this light between the hooks and keep it cord free by powering it with a V-mount instead of plugging it into the wall. The desk that I'm using is just a cheap second-hand desk I found online. It's not adjustable, but like most things in the studio, I have it on wheels, which means I can easily reposition it when needed. Now let's talk about the background. I wanted something simple, stripped down, and minimalist. Something that didn't take a long time to set up, and that didn't call attention to itself. The first thing I did in this space was repaint the walls. I went for a neutral grey that wasn't going to bounce light or be very reflective. I then added the floating shelves, going for that Kubrickian centered symmetrical feel. The shelves were also second-hand. The large light in the corner is actually an old school 800 watt halogen ARI light that I picked up second-hand. It works, but its output is much too powerful, so to create the illusion that the light is on, I've added a layer of diffusion paper behind the barn doors and then slid an Aperture MC light behind the paper. This allows me to control the output of the light and also the color for a subtle change in moods. These Aperture MC lights are one of the handiest utility lights to help dress sets and are completely RGB and controllable by Aperture's Sidus Link app. No YouTuber studio would be complete without a hipster Edison bulb table lamp. The only downside to this version is that it's not dimmable, but I have included a link to one that is. It's sitting on another second-hand coffee table, which my girlfriend found online. You'll also notice that with both background lights, I've done my best to conceal their cords, which I did simply by gaffer taping the cords to the back of their stands, which keeps everything clean and uncluttered. In my opinion, the real key to an aesthetically pleasing background is a sense of depth. In my old studio, I was so close to my back wall I could never create this feeling. You want to create separation between me as the subject and my background. The only way to achieve this is to be far enough away from that background that we are able to create a shallow depth of field where I am in focus while my background is not. I am far enough away from this background that this becomes much easier to do. Subsequently, your eye is now drawn more to me as the focal point. I'm no longer competing with what's behind me. Creating this type of depth is not just a tip for when you are looking to create a studio environment. Whenever you're filming a subject, whether that be for a corporate interview or filming actors in a scene, you want space behind them to create separation. Don't jam your actors right up against walls. Bring them away from their environment and create that depth of field. Now that is the main YouTube studio look, but this space actually has a few more tricks up its sleeve. To the left side of the main studio is another wall, which acts as a second entirely different podcast set. With another floating shelf, a few ornaments, and an ode to my love for all things Star Wars, it provides another easy filming option. This look can be achieved simply and quickly by shuffling the desk and repositioning the top light. But this wall also acts as a third set for filming all of my B-roll of products. This is where I have a large photography backdrop which I can pull down whenever I need to shoot some equipment. I currently use a royal blue 2.75 meter Savage Photography paper backdrop, which also comes in a range of different colours. And in the future, this area can double as a green screen wall. Whenever I need to shoot against this, I simply pull down the paper backdrop and rotate my desk and lights. When I create B-roll cutaways, I use a Lazy Susan. But as this may now be offensive to Susans who are lazy, you might also call this a rotating product photography turntable. This particular turntable is by a brand called ComSim. I've found it to be very useful, and it comes with a remote control to adjust the rotation speed and direction of the rotation. It can also handle a capacity of 88 lbs, which means it should have no problems with heavy items you wish to feature, as you can see from some of my examples. And lastly, behind the camera, I have an entire wall of equipment, but I've put up these blackout curtains to hide this equipment, and it means if clients come into the studio to do some filming, they're not going to see my messy gear stack. Not only that, but the curtains help to reduce sound reverberation, light spill, and provide a clean, neutral background to film against if required. And that's it. This is my studio tour. I hope it's inspired you when you're thinking about creating a studio at home, and given you some ideas about what tools you can use to help you get the most out of that space. Until next time, I am the Savage Filmmaker, and I'll see you when I see you.